was nice and green. These guys do a roaring trade. Tea cost me £2.95, which is like 45 rand. Pastries are about £1.50 or so. Which I didn't have in the end because the scones were far too much. 2 big scones and the tea. This graveyard and church actually, so I'm going to go up these stairs and hopefully I can get back to the bus up there. This time is running out now. And I'm coming down the other side now to get back to the parking. Quite a steep road. Straight down. I just hope I make the parking in time because the minibus. Because if I don't, I've got to slog up those stairs like 150 meters upwards. 5 minutes to go. It's now about 20 past 2 in the afternoon. Tuesday the 21st. Wednesday the 21st. I'm gonna make it. Just a few minutes away. It shouldn't be a problem. Turn right at this corner over here. Yeah, I've tried a couple of views now. I was unfortunately zoomed in just now, so I'm going to take another still of this one. I think I got that a bit skew. I'm going to try it again maybe. Try it again. Oh, not quite. Okay, it's close enough. Try it right like that maybe. Alright, that's it. That's enough of Ives now. I'm sure I've seen enough. Just left some Ives.
But here, you know, they just grow wild. We have them quite a lot up in Scotland as well. They're rather nice that they're just coming into flower now. Cruise. Now Windermere is the largest lake in the Lake District. Lots of water sports on the lake, lots of little islands, beautiful houses and gardens, and it'll be our own private boat. It's not the one in the itinerary, which is a boat and train.
If you see a hound does, this is the moor. I take it this is the moor, isn't it? shrouded in mist. Towers service last night at the hotel. We stopped at the Jamaica Inn along the motorway, and Conrad, the tour guide, has offered to pay for our first drink here. So obviously everybody very excited. There's also a museum, a potter's museum next door. The mist is quite thick. This is right next to Dartmoor at the moment. The Dartmoor mist comes over like pea soup. You can't actually see anything next to the road, in fact. So let's go inside and pick the most expensive drink, whatever that may be. Everybody's now in good humor.
Well, the ale tasted very good, and we even found an old R1 note, South African note, on the pillars here.
These places are very interesting. But if our parents had gone to America instead of Australia, I dare say we'd be very good.
Top of the inn from a photograph. That's what it looks like when it's lit.
Roughly inside the porch. Oh, it's you, is it? So you've come to us after all. I'm your uncle, Joss Merlin, and I bid you welcome to Jamaica Inn. He was a great husk of a man, nearly 7 feet high, with a creased black brow and a skin the colour of a gypsy. He looked as if he had the strength of a horse, with immense, powerful shoulders, long arms that reached almost to his knees, and large fists like hands. His nose was hooked, curving to a mouth that might have been perfect once, but was now sunken and fallen. The best things left to him were his teeth, which were all good still and very white, so that when he smiled, they showed up clearly against the tan of his face. "So you are Mary Yellen," he said at length, towering above her, "and you've come all this way to look after your Uncle Joss. I call it very handsome of you." He laughed again, mocking her. "Where's my Aunt Patience?" "Where's my Aunt Patience?" mimicked the man. "Can you wait an instant without running to her?" He jeered down at her contemptuously. "Patience!" he roared. "What in the hell are you doing? Here's the girl arrived, whimpering for you." Down the narrow stairs came a woman, shielding the light from her eyes. Her face had fallen away, and the skin was stretched tight across her cheekbones.
We have to sing a song.
Her eyes were large and staring, and she had a little nervous trick of working her mouth, now pursing the lips and now relaxing them. Mary stared at her dumbly. Would wait no longer. If she stayed even one night beneath this roof, her nerve would go from her, and she would be lost. She tiptoed to the head of the stairs. She paused and listened. She heard a sound from the other passage, which she was now too tired to plan. Mary would act as a protector to Aunt Patience, and stand between her and Joss Merlin. And so Mary lay upon her hard bed, her mind teeming while she prayed for sleep. Every sound a fresh stab. There's a very prominent place here on the road. You can see that. The coaches pass here twice a week. They come from Truro and Bodmin and so on to Lordston. Yes, Aunt Patience, but why don't they stop at Jamaica? Her aunt was silent for a moment, working her mouth and twisting her fingers in her lap. Your Uncle Joss doesn't encourage folk to...
Okay, there's our hotel, and I've just phoned home from that garage over there. What I didn't say earlier was that I was late for the coach at Jamaica Inn, so I had to sing a song. The only one I could think of was Bar Bar Black Sheep, but obviously a popular song because everybody sang along with me. But yeah, that was my most embarrassing moment so far. and I'm now going to go for a drink at this pub over here. It's just outside the hotel. And then it's supper. It's now about 7 o'clock local time here, or 10 to 7 or so, and then I'm going to go back to the hotel for supper at 7:15. Just had a Dartmoor bitter at that pub now. Pretty weak actually in the end. It was a bit of a bitter flavour, but rather a weak beer actually. This is the very last scenic shot of hedgerows on the fields. I'm sort of north of Dartmoor now, still by the hotel. From now on I'm going to do different scenery, but it's just nice lighting and it's quite easy to see them actually, so I thought I'll just take another shot quickly. Very green. You can see the sort of the classic edges separating all the fields. It's now 7:20 in the evening here local time, and you can see the sun is still up bright. It only basically gets dark by about 9:30 in the evening actually, and as we go to Scotland we're expecting it's going to be even more light a little later in the evening. So just to give you an idea, quite amazing actually. Certainly get quite a long day in because you don't feel, you stay awake because it's so light.
That's all part of the Clark's village.
So this is Street on our way to Glastonbury, and this is the home of the Clark shoe factory.
So those at the front of the coach will be able to see the Glastonbury tour now quite clearly. So like I said, that's Avalon, or the burial place of the Holy Grail. Of course it's never been found, but many people still do believe that it is there. All different religious faiths do make pilgrimages now. I mean, the site wasn't a religious site for many years, but then the Church of England bought the site in the 1900s, and now the Church of England, the Catholics, the Methodists, quite a few non-conformist faiths actually come here. It's sort of maybe not normal for other non-conformist faiths to have pilgrimages, but they do actually come to Glastonbury as they believe the legend that Christ actually lived for a while here.
There's some cows in town that must be like fresh milk.
Complete building actually is of the Abbot's kitchens just there on the right. You can see some of the other ruins of the Abbey Church and the cloisters there. This is the car park where we'll be parking. We're just passing the toilets here as well.
Oh, wonderful.
So this is one of the streets. The shops are just opening up. Also, if you walk to the end of this street further on and then turn to the right, there's quite a few more shops there. One or two little coffee shops where you can have a coffee or whatever. If you'd like to go into the Abbey.
Arrived in Glastonbury Abbey. This is where King Arthur and Guinevere apparently reputed to be reburied after they were found. So I'm going to go try and find them in the ruins there. This is the entrance. It's a model of how the Abbey is thought to have looked in 1539. There's not enough time to check the visitor centre, so I'm just going to have to run outside and go do the filming because I've only got about 20 minutes, fortunately.
this oh no, why does it tell me that now? This is the Lady Chapel in the front. I'm going to go inside. Here's the site of St Dunstan's Chapel. Sign over there. See the lid. It's not a very big chapel, it's about the size of a normal church actually. Here's an artist's impression of how it must have looked, and it was still in use, I suppose. Just off to the right of the Ladies' Chapel here. You can see that's the Lady Chapel over there, and I'm going to be walking up that way now. Have a look at those ruins up there as well. This is part of the east walk of the cloister. I mean, this is actually would have all been inside, you know, these gardens and all the rest of it. These would have been the passage, the covered passageways coming through this way. And this is the main part of the abbey itself up the top. I mean, this place must have been massive. This was the east wall, and then just behind there is where the Lady Chapel was, where I just came in. And you can see up the east walk, this is the stairs. Southeast pier, and on this side, oops, is the northeast pier. There's quite a lot of detail here on some left. This is the spot apparently where they were reburied. In the center, would have been roughly in the center of the cathedral. This is the inside of the other wall. I'll try to get to the main road, so there's not obviously a lot of time. And this is where the high altar would have been over here ahead, this chained off area. Over here. I'm going to turn around again and look down to back there where the Ladies' Chapel is. You can get an idea of the distance. It's well over 100 meters away. So quite a massive structure all in all. Building, that round building there at the bottom, is we were looking at it from the street when we came past in the carriage. The bus, is actually the ruins of the old abbot's kitchen. I mean, that would have been basically the McDonald's of the day, I suppose. You could almost see the golden arches there. Next view should hopefully be the main road. And this is part of the new cathedral, obviously, that's been built. I found it difficult to use the old one with the weather here in England. It's actually just chimed, I think, now. 1:45, I imagine. So they've only got a few minutes left. This is the Glastonbury thorn. Now, it's apparently good luck to touch this thing, so I'm going to have a bash at it without getting pricked, actually. Let's take a safe area here. There we go, the Glastonbury thorn. I don't know what we're touching, but anyway. See, it's actually been supported up. I haven't got the story right here, but I think it's a very, very old thorn tree, actually. In the main road, as you can hear, and this is the George and Pilgrims Hotel. And this is just to get an idea of the main road. It's a tour bus. It's not a spelling mistake. Thought it was a spelling mistake, but speaking tree, well, that could only be interesting, actually. And then down here at the bottom of the road, it's the King William Inn. This was actually just a coffee break, so we didn't have a lot of time yet. Just try to cram some of the stuff in quickly, actually. And just have to head back to the coach now, I'm afraid. Because I already had to sing a song yesterday, so I certainly don't want to end up having to do it again now. All these streets are busy, I'm afraid. Near the town of Cheddar, where the original cheddar cheese comes from. Pound in. It's Wells Cathedral. Oh, it was a very quick glimpse. And there it goes.
Some of the lovely parts of the city, and then we'll make our way down to the back of the Abbey. The Abbey is the sort of little black shape next to the obelisk, and from there I'll walk you around to the front of the Roman Baths, which is just by the main shopping areas, the main eating areas of the city of Bath, and then you'll have your free time to do whatever you like. And I'll tell you a bit about Bath in just a moment. The legend of Bath, it's another legend, I know we've heard a few today, starts with Prince Bladud. Prince Bladud, who's the legendary father of King Lear that Shakespeare wrote about, contracted leprosy. This was in the Celtic times, and he was thrown out of a court. Of course, people were scared because he had leprosy. They threw him out, but they gave him some pigs to look after, and it was said that he wandered around the Mendip Hills that we've just been coming through, and one day he came to a warm spring, and it was a kind of a muddy water, and his piglets were rolling around in this muddy spring, and they had a rash, and he noticed after a couple of days that the rash disappeared. And of course, because he had leprosy, he then thought, well, I'll try this as well. And of course, he was miraculously cured of his leprosy. He went back to the court, eventually married, and like I say, became the father of King Lear. So this spring, in Celtic times, you know, had this legend, and it was said the Celtic people used to worship at the spring, and they worshipped a goddess. They called the spring Sulis. Now, when the Romans arrived into Britain in 43 AD, they came to Bath in about 55 AD. Romans were scared to ignore the local gods, the local deities, you know, so very often Romans would incorporate the local gods and goddesses with their own gods. And they decided that the goddess Sulis was similar to the goddess of wisdom, Minerva, so they called it the waters of Sulis Minerva. And of course, Romans very much liked healing waters. You know, all over the Roman Empire they had healing waters, and they built a huge temple to the goddess Sulis Minerva at the site of the Roman baths. There was a colonnaded building. Normal people wouldn't have been allowed inside, only the priests would have gone inside the holy temple, but there was a huge altar outside the temple, and this is where you would bring your animals for sacrifice to the goddess. And it was said, you know, you would sacrifice, let's say, a lamb. The priests would cut open the animal and they would read the entrails, and by that way they would read your fortune. You know, so if you were lucky and had a nice baby lamb, that everything was good, it would mean that you would have, you know, good marriage, many children, all of this. But of course, if you were maybe not so rich, maybe had an old sheep that was a bit diseased and whatever, you know.
On our way to Bath. Inevitable trees.
Even bolder than jumper for looking around Bath.
Yeah, I must just keep some tape for Bath.
The city of Bath does have city status. It has a population of about 85,000 inhabitants.
In Bath.
Houses. They look quite small from here, and we'll try and pull up behind that green coach there and walk you up to have a photograph, because it's maybe a little bit too far from the centre to walk up from here, so we'll have a sort of a 5-minute stop for a photograph. Beautiful flowers up here as well.
You were right mostly. Something's on here at the
Folks,
moment.
can you see that one of the doors is a different colour?
Yeah, one's yellow.
Yes, one's a yellow door. When they put the double yellow
Royal-
lines outside
Royal
the
Crescent.
houses, the lady in that house protested and said she thought it was disgusting. She said we must remove the yellow lines, and she would paint her door yellow until the council did that. Of course, they've never done it, and it gives us guys something to say when we stop here. But anyway, it's and as you can see, it is still yellow. But it's 33 houses, so I know that surprises you, but the two windows at the bottom, you know, that'll be the ground level rooms. Then you've got the big reception rooms up on the first floor, the master bedrooms, servants' quarters, and then you've got the basement for the kitchens and all of that. Georgians entertained on a daily basis. You know, you probably would have had 3-4 dinner parties a week if you were rich enough to live in a place like here. So the first room you entered was the dining room. Behind the dining room you had the master bedroom, which we wouldn't really have maybe nowadays because...
Oh, he's going already.
And here we're going to see his influence of all the different styles of architecture, because he did all different style columns in the circus. You got Doric on the... I've got all mixed up. Ionic, Doric and Corinthian columns on the top level. If we just go around.
Oh, this is the...
So yeah, Doric,
the
Ionic,
circles.
and then Corinthian. They're the decorated ones at the top. Also, have a look at the tops of the houses. You've got acorns there, which commemorate the legend of Prince Bladud, because it was said that piglets were eating acorns. So that's the lovely acorns. David Livingstone, the explorer, lived at number 7. Lord Clive of India at number 13. Several of our painters, Gainsborough, lived here as well.
It's a royal circle.
I don't know how long. I don't know how long they lived.
There's an example of the foot scraper there on the front door. Scraping the shoes off. Here in Bath now. Standing near the Pulteney Bridge at the moment. Just taking a view up the river. This is not the bridge, by the way. It's the view downriver actually. There's a weir here as well. Yeah. It's a big weir. And the bridge itself is this one here, covered bridge. And I'm going to go take the next shot, will be on the bridge. There's some shops there. I think that's worth a snapshot actually. And the next shot will be on the bridge. And here we are. That's the bridge actually. I took the photograph from just now. Other view of the bridge over here. This is the Sydney Gardens, or just next to them anyway. I'm just a little bit away up from the bridge now. I'm heading towards the Roman baths actually. There's the cathedral. I just took a still photo of that one there. Through that alleyway was the river. I've just come there from the bridge. Walking now, I'm staying in front of the Roman baths. This is the Abbey, the Bath Abbey. You see the lovely wooden door.